Alrighty guys, so here are a few of the bearing blocks that I've made in the past. This was my very first one. As you can see, it's a very pretty tool now. That's the good thing about making yourself a rock bearing block, is that it is a serviceable tool that you can always have with you. It's going to help you if you're a beginner at trying to friction fire. That way you don't have to keep harvesting a green limb every time you go out, and it also makes for a nice little heirloom or a gift or something that you can pass on to a friend or a family member. Anyway, that said, all that aside, I started on this one. I pumped the brakes. I was like, you know what, I'm going to take these folks along and show you how to make one. First, you're going to need sandpaper, 220. It doesn't have to be 220, just some fine sandpaper. Maybe a whetstone if you want to conserve on utility blades. Going to need a couple utility blades and a box cutter or a utility knife and something plastic or some paper plates. That's a coffee lid. You're going to want to put this on here, and we're going to be spinning this. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got something that's disposable as a partition between your countertop and your rock that you're working on. Okay, so talking the rocks. These rocks, I can't tell you exactly what they're made of. I don't know the proper name, but I just know where to look for them. Creek beds, mossy fields, like mossy little valleys and fields. You're going to find these little rocks. A lot of times they'll be covered in moss. You can see this one still got, whoop, excuse me. You can tell that this one's still got some moss on it. Just kind of walking through with the screwdriver. When you see a little rock, just kind of flip it out and check it out. These rocks, as you can see, have like this, like kind of like layers on it. That's a good indication that you've got one that's malleable. If you put enough force on these, you can chip little pieces of that away, and then you get kind of this, get down to the center of it after you get those little, see, it's still got some little flakes and layers on the side, and it's a coppery color. And one way you'll know that you found this rock is if you take something like this and you, let me see, dig away at it like this. You'll get this bright orange sienna like dust, and that is a perfect way to distinguish this rock from other rocks. Okay, other rocks will work, especially if you've got a Dremel tool or something like that, but we're talking hand tools only. I know these will work for you. Okay, a sandstone is malleable. You can work on this with a box cutter, but it's going to have a lot of grit. It's going to have a lot of grit, and it's just not going to work out great for you. It's going to tear up your box cutter, and it's going to have a lot of grit inside your bowl. A gravel would work for you, but you're going to need something very hard to grind away at this, and I don't have the means. Maybe a Dremel tool, but this rock is just a rock I flipped out of a creek. It's not exactly made like these rocks. It's not made of the same material, but it's smooth. It's got a little bit of light texture, and you can kind of like, I don't know, you can dig away at it a little bit with another harder rock, so it might work for you. So just experiment and see what works. Alrighty, so bear with me, we're going to get started. Alrighty guys, so here's the little rock that we found earlier. I'm just going around it right now and taking off some of these sharp edges, some of this edge material. And as you can see on my box cutter, it's just really peeling it away. You want to start at the back of your blade so that you've got a little bit more area to work with. You're just kind of going along, nipping off some of the rough edges. This powder, I like to keep that because I figure when stuff ever hits the fan, I'll have that to make like maybe some dye or some paint or something like that with. But yeah, you'd be surprised how easy it is to move the material on this one, on this guy right here. You just go around nipping the corners. And I'm not going to bore you with all this, but yeah, you see that kind of sienna color? I was telling you, the coppery sienna color. But yeah, just go all the way around the top and the bottom, nip in the corners, and then we're going to sandpaper all that off anyway. So anyway, next step, start right here in the center. See if I can brighten the screen up so you can see a little better. Start dead center as best you can, and you're just going to start grinding the tip, putting a little bit of pressure. It's going to start grinding the tip back and forth like this. See, we're making that little bit of progress right there in that upper layer. Just gonna keep going back and forth like this, kind of bearing down, not so much that you're gonna lose control of the blade. Bearing down, making a little bowl. Alright, then we're gonna, got a little pivot started there, then you're gonna spin. That's why you want this. You can either spin this if you want to protect your fingers, like a plate, if you've got it on a plate or a Tupperware lid, or you can pivot the little rock, and that's what I like to do. But keep going around and around and around and around until you get a little hole started. And I'm holding my blade at about that much of an angle. And you'll hear that grit. We're making good purchase here. And you just keep going around and around, a little bit of an angle. All right. See, we've got that little bowl started, and that's perfect. So now that you've got your little bowl started, the very tip of your blade, and you can see we've already started to round that off. Keep that in the center there. Keep the blade at a tilt, like that, and just keep going around. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of a bowl shape made, I'm going to center my knife, go straight up and down again, putting it down like this, going straight up and down, and just putting a very slight tilt. Let me see if I can clear the screen up here. Putting a very slight tilt, recenter it, and that's how you achieve your depth. You just keep recentering that box cutter utility blade. Do about, I don't know, 10 or 15 spins. Knock your dust out. See? We've made that hole deep again in the center. Right there. And then you dig out around it. Now's the time when you put that box cutter in there at an angle and dig your bowl out. And then once you've done that layer, you'll straight up and down again. And then dig some more. And that's how you achieve depth and not just diameter and whatnot. So, here we go. Just dig it out ever so slightly. Straight up and down. Kind of see how deep it is. Okay, so now that you're getting down here, it's getting a little bit harder to achieve depth without taking material away from the sod. So what you can do, put your hand like that so you got some good control, and just kind of chip away some little grooves down there in the bottom. Staying close to that bottom pivot point. And that'll give you some little red ridges. You probably can't see it, but that'll give you some little ridges to kind of cut out, kind of bowl out. 'Cause this stuff is so malleable, you can smooth it right on out. And we got sandpaper too for those final touches. So at this point, we don't want to make it any more big around. See, it's already about the size of my nail, a little bit bigger, and we don't want any bigger, we just want to go deeper. Alright guys, so we're getting there slowly. At this point, what I like to kind of do is plant your box cutter again back in the very deepest point in the very center, pivot, and then kind of put my finger here again, bow out just a little, and take little sweeps and do more like this, going completely around but digging out just a little bit at a time with kind of like little hooky sweepy motions. Like that technical term there, hooky sweepy motions. But this helps you to dig your blade down a little further, a little deeper, and taking away little deep materials instead of this outer rim, excuse me. Alright, hooky sweepy motions that killed me. Anyway, so we're getting there. Alrighty guys, so I flipped my blade around and we're gonna get started back at it. Again, starting in the middle. My dog, this toy. Yeah, that's a little sharper, so it's giving us a little bit better bite because we're trying to stay on the inside of the bowl, bending the blade to where it catches this part and not the outside loop. Or, yeah, you know what I mean. So, trying to stay down there in the center. Alrighty guys, so my camera kicked off there. All I've done is rinsed it. Taken my sandpaper. I just went around. Nothing fancy. Knocking the corners down. Anywhere that I feel an extra little rough edge. And the sanding is just optional. It's not even necessary. But took it like this in the corner and just reamed this out a little bit, just to pick up those last few little last few uneven grooves. Rinsed again. Dry it up. Alrighty guys, and that is the finished product. Not bad for 40 minutes, right? And it's something that you can use and pass on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. As always, I want to thank you for supporting my channel. Take care of yourselves, folks, and I hope to see you again next time.